I was 13 when it happened. 13, almost 14, that strange age where you think you're invincible, but you're still too young to understand how fragile life really is. That summer, my mom and I were staying in northern Mexico, in a tiny town outside Ciudad Juarez, living with my uncle Manuel. It wasn't the kind of place you'd see on a postcard. No bright colors, no charming buildings, just cracked roads, half-paved sidewalks, and quiet neighborhoods pressed up against endless desert. The town barely had 300 people, and everyone knew everyone else. Still, I wasn't lonely. I had my cousin Mariana, who was 15, and my best friend Valeria, who was 16 and lived a few houses away. The three of us were inseparable. There were no malls, no movie theaters, so we made our own fun, sneaking to the old soccer field at night, walking to the tiny convenience store for sodas and spicy chips, laughing so hard we forgot what time it was. That summer, the heat was brutal. Even after sunset, the air felt thick, like the desert was breathing fire back at us. Nighttime became our escape. The darkness made us brave. "Dude, let's go to the school," Valeria said one night, fanning herself with her shirt. It was almost 11 p.m. Mariana groaned. "The school? What, study math at midnight?" "No," Valeria laughed. "The sprinklers. They turn on at night. It's like rain, but better." I hesitated. "My mom won't be okay with us being out this late." "She never notices," Mariana said, rolling her eyes. "Besides, we've done it before. We'll be fine." She was right. We'd done it before, running barefoot through wet grass, screaming as the sprinklers sprayed us. No one ever cared. The school was about 5 blocks away, surrounded by houses that stayed dark at night. It felt hidden, like it belonged to us. I didn't want to be the boring one. "Fine," I said, "but just for a little while." The walk there was full of chatter. Valeria talked about a boy from the next town. Mariana teased me about how short I was. Streetlights flickered or didn't work at all. The town was silent, eerie, but together it felt like an adventure. When we reached the schoolyard, the sprinklers were already on. "Orale!" Valeria shouted, kicking off her sandals and running straight into the mist. Mariana followed. After a moment, I did too. We ran, slipped, laughed, soaked within minutes. Then suddenly, Mariana stopped laughing. She froze. "Hey," she whispered, "do you see that?" I turned. At the far corner of the yard near the chain-link fence stood a figure. Tall, hooded, completely still. "Shit," Valeria breathed. "Is that a teacher?" "At midnight?" Mariana said. "No way." The figure didn't move. Something twisted in my stomach. "We should go," I said. "Now," Mariana agreed. We grabbed our clothes, still dripping, and left the school grounds fast. Valeria's house was closer than mine, only 3 blocks away, so we headed there. At first, it wasn't bad. Streetlights glowed yellow, our wet shoes slapped against the pavement. Then we turned onto a narrow road between 2 empty lots. Pitch black. "I can't see anything," Mariana muttered. "Just keep walking," Valeria said. "We're close." I glanced back, just once, and that's when I saw him. The hooded figure was running, full speed, straight towards us. "Run!" I screamed. We bolted. My lungs burned, my clothes clung to me, footsteps thundered behind us. Valeria's house appeared like a miracle. We slammed into the door, pounding. It flew open. Her older sister, Isabel, stood there, loud music blasting behind her. "What the—" "Let us in!" Valeria cried. We collapsed inside, gasping. "There was a man," I said. "He was chasing us." A group of guys from the party stepped forward. "Someone followed you?" one asked. "Yes," Mariana said. "He had a hood." Without hesitation, 3 of them grabbed flashlights and baseball bats and went outside. We waited in silence. Then, shouting, we rushed to the porch. They had found him, crouched in the bushes across the street. When they got closer, he pulled something from his pocket, a knife. "Back off," one of the guys yelled. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the man bolted, disappearing into the darkness. The guys came back shaken. He was armed, crazy bastard. Isabel looked at us. "You girls are lucky," she said quietly. "If he had caught you—" She didn't finish. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me flinch. Every shadow looked like him. More than a decade later, I still think about that night. Sometimes I wonder, what if we hadn't noticed him standing there? What if we hadn't looked back? People say, you just got lucky. Maybe that's true, but I remember how still he stood, how he hid in the bushes, like he was waiting for us. It wasn't the last time the desert scared me. When I was 19, I was on a winter road trip with friends, Natalia, Diego, and Andres, driving from Chihuahua to San Antonio. It was freezing. Snow even started falling. For hours, nothing. No lights, no cars. Then Diego said quietly, "Do you see that?" On the side of the road, a figure, kneeling, motionless, barefoot, wearing only shorts. Natalia rolled the window down. "Está bien? Do you need help?" The figure turned, and I'll never forget his face. Burned, melted, no nose, no lips, just teeth and hollow eyes staring straight at us. "Go," I whispered. "Go." Natalia hit the gas. We never spoke about it again, but I know this. The desert keeps its secrets. Some roads aren't meant to be walked. Some shadows should never be followed. And sometimes, survival is nothing more than luck. Looking back now, there are moments in life that feel like warnings. Not loud ones, not dramatic ones, just quiet instincts, easy to ignore, easy to explain away. At the time, I didn't know that one drive through the desert would stay with me for years, that it would return in dreams, in sudden flashes of fear while driving alone at night. Back then, I thought fear was something obvious, something that screamed at you to run. I didn't yet understand that real fear is subtle. It's the feeling that tells you to turn around, and the decision you make not to listen. I should have known better. That's what I kept telling myself long after that drive. I should have trusted that tight feeling in my chest instead of brushing it off as nerves. But at the time, it felt like just another adventure, another forgotten stretch of northern Mexico waiting to be explored. Before I eventually moved to the Midwest for work, I spent nearly a decade living in northern Mexico. I was in my early 20s, old enough to be independent, but still young enough to believe nothing truly bad could happen to me. My closest friend during those years was Lucia. Lucia and I had a habit of spending our weekends chasing places that barely existed anymore. Abandoned mining towns, empty pueblos, churches slowly collapsing back into the earth. We weren't reckless, we were just curious. Lucia used to say, "The desert remembers everything, Valentina. It just doesn't tell its stories out loud." Most of the time, those secrets were harmless. Crumbling adobe walls, rusting machinery, silence thick with dust and history. But one afternoon in March of 2010, I learned that not every secret wants to be found. We had spent the morning wandering through San Esteban, a quiet town with a faded plaza and an old mission church slowly falling apart. A few older men sat outside a cantina, watching us with mild curiosity as we took photos. By mid-afternoon, the heat dipped lower, the air easing just enough to make driving bearable. Lucia drove my SUV, her hair tied back, sunglasses sliding down her nose. I sat beside her with a worn paper map spread across my lap. We weren't rushing back to Chihuahua City, so I suggested we take Highway 47, a long, empty route that cut straight through the desert before reconnecting with the larger road. "You're sure about this way?" Lucia asked as we passed the last cluster of houses. I traced the thin line on the map. "It saves time, and come on, don't you want to see what's out here?" She laughed softly. "One day your curiosity is going to kill us. Better than dying bored." She rolled her eyes but kept driving. The desert opened up around us, flat, endless, unreal. The sky felt too wide, too empty, like we were passing through a place not meant for people. Every few miles, we passed rusted road signs riddled with bullet holes. Old fences leaned at strange angles, half buried in sand. The silence was heavy. No birds, no wind, just the sound of tires against asphalt and the low hum of the engine. That kind of silence presses in on you. It makes every thought louder. Lucia reached into the back seat for a bag of chips. This is the kind of road where if something goes wrong, you're screwed. Don't say that. But secretly, I liked the feeling, being completely forgotten by the rest of the world. Then we saw the truck. It appeared ahead of us, white, boxy, parked sideways across both lanes of the highway. At first, I thought it was broken down, but as we got closer, I noticed the engine was running. "Lucia," I said quietly, "do you see that?" She slowed slightly. There was no reason for a truck to block the entire road. "Maybe a rancher?" she suggested, but her voice wasn't convincing. "Then why stop like that?" I whispered. When we were about a half-mile away, the truck pulled onto the shoulder, still facing north, our direction. Lucia exhaled. "See, he's letting us pass." But as we drove by, I looked straight at the driver, a middle-aged man, sunburned skin, a baseball cap pulled low. His face was blank. In his hand was a walkie-talkie pressed to his mouth. He didn't wave, didn't nod, just stared. Less than a minute later, the truck pulled back onto the road, behind us. At first, he kept his distance. Lucia sped up, 60, 70. The truck matched us exactly. "No signal," Lucia muttered, holding up her phone. Same for mine. 10 minutes passed like that. 10 minutes of being followed through a desert that felt completely empty. Then I saw another vehicle ahead. Relief until it vanished. It was an old pickup, crawling along the road. As it passed us, I saw the driver clearly. Another middle-aged man. Another walkie-talkie. "Oh no," I whispered. In the mirror, I watched him slow, then make a wide U-turn. "They're together," I said, my throat dry. The white truck closed in, riding dangerously close. The second truck followed, locking us in. Lucia pushed the gas. 90. I can't go faster. "Don't stop," I begged. The white truck swerved into the opposite lane, pulling up next to us, mere inches away. "If he gets in front," Lucia's voice cracked, "they'll trap us." Then the road crested a low hill. A sign flashed by, San Miguel Mission, 2 kilometers. And at the bottom of the hill, a blue pickup pulled onto the road. I froze until I saw the license plate. "National Park Service." "It's a ranger," Lucia gasped. We stayed glued to that truck. Behind us, both pickups slowed. Then, without hesitation, they turned around and disappeared back into the desert. Gone. We followed the ranger into Santa Rosalia and parked outside a small store. We sat there shaking, unable to speak. That night, I called the police. I told them everything: the blocked road, the radios, the chase. The officer listened, then said, "We'll keep an eye on that area." That was it. No report, no investigation. Lucia never wanted to talk about it again. "We got lucky," she'd say. "Let it go." But the desert doesn't forget. And neither do I. I was 21 years old when it happened. And before you think this is some creepy legend I went looking for, it wasn't. I've never been the kind of person who chases horror stories. I don't watch scary movies alone. I don't go exploring abandoned places. But sometimes, the road finds you. At the time, I was a college student living in Flagstaff, Arizona. My family lived far away in Laredo, Texas, and whenever I had a long break, I'd make the drive instead of flying. It was cheaper, and honestly, I liked the quiet. Long roads gave me time to think. That winter, I wasn't alone. My cousin Daniel sat in the passenger seat, half asleep. In the back were my 2 closest friends, Marisol and Jenny, wrapped in hoodies, sharing earbuds and laughing softly. We left later than we planned. That was my fault. By the time we crossed into southern New Mexico, the sun was already gone. The desert stretched endlessly around us, swallowed by darkness. No city lights, no houses, just black land and a pale ribbon of highway cutting through it. At first, everything felt normal. Music played quietly. We joked about how empty the road felt. "This is how horror movies start," Daniel muttered with a grin. I laughed it off. "Relax, nothing ever happens out here." I shouldn't have said that. Around 12:40 a.m., we passed a small, forgotten town. One gas station, one dark diner. That was it. After that, nothing. Miles and miles of nothing. Then I noticed headlights ahead of us. Another car. I felt weirdly relieved, proof we weren't alone. We passed it without thinking much about it. A silver sedan, windows dark. 10 minutes later, everything changed. Something moved in the road. At first, I thought it was an animal, maybe a deer. Instinct kicked in and I slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly before stopping. "What the hell?" Daniel said, sitting up. That's when we saw it. It was standing in the headlights. Too tall to be human. Too thin. Its arms hung unnaturally low, almost brushing the ground. It stood crooked, like it didn't quite understand how its body worked. Marisol whispered, "What is that?" The thing took a step forward, slow, dragging one leg. My chest tightened. Something felt deeply wrong. Not just scary, but wrong, like my brain was rejecting what my eyes were seeing. Then it lifted its head. I won't describe its face in detail. I don't want to remember it clearly. I'll just say this. It didn't look alive, and it didn't look dead either. The smell hit us next. A sickening odor filled the car, even though the windows were closed, like decay, like something that shouldn't exist anymore. Jenny started crying. Daniel whispered, "Drive, now." I didn't hesitate. I floored the gas and swerved around it, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. As we sped past, I glanced sideways. The thing didn't chase us. It just turned. Its body twisted in a way no human body should, following the car as we passed, like it was watching us leave, memorizing us. No one spoke for a full minute. Then Daniel broke the silence. That wasn't human. The temperature inside the car suddenly felt freezing. I glanced at the dashboard. 29 degrees. "That's impossible," I said. "It was warm earlier." Almost on cue, snow began falling. Snow. In the desert. In March. Marisol started praying under her breath. Jenny pulled her hood tight over her head. We didn't stop driving. After what felt like forever, lights appeared ahead. A gas station. Open. Bright. I pulled in and parked, hands shaking. Inside the car, none of us moved. Finally, Jenny said softly, "It was looking at us." No one disagreed. When we stepped out, the air felt normal again. Cold, but not freezing. The snow had stopped completely. The temperature on the dash climbed back up like nothing had happened. No one at the gas station mentioned snow. No one mentioned anything strange on the road. We never talked about it loudly again. But I know what I saw. And ever since that night, I avoid desert highways after midnight. I don't stop for figures on the road. I don't slow down. Because some things don't want help. They want attention. And once they know you've seen them, they don't always let you forget.